Good morning. Let's go ahead and get started. For those that got up and managed to get here on time. I'm Don Stastny. I'm the competition manager. We welcome you here this morning. We want to go over some issues that are involved around the competition and the different stages that we will be going through. We're going to talk a little bit about the overall program for the three sites. I would say for the most part this is probably just reiterating a lot of the material you already have access to through the competition manual, but then also be available towards the end for question and answers that might be a part of it. To start off, I would like to introduce Caroline Cunningham, who is the president of the Trust for the National Mall, who is putting on this design competition. Caroline?
Good morning. How is everyone? I want to start, my name is Caroline Cunningham. I'm the president of the Trust for the National Mall, and just want to bring you into a little bit of atmosphere. Last evening, the Trust hosted a dialogue with the nation's top historians. Bob Schieffer moderated it for us and had 3 Pulitzer Prize winning authors and historians talking about the history of the National Mall, talking about not only the built environment and the history of that space, but also the living history of that space and how important that is to our country. Not only its importance as a symbol and a reflection of our values, but also having a good grounding in the history of that space as we create the next 40 or 50 years of this space. And so it was a very humbling experience as we were creating this narrative for the future with a good grounding in the past. And I welcome you all here in helping us think through the future of the National Mall. The Trust for the National Mall is the official partner of the National Park Service, and we have a very simple mission, which is to make the National Mall the best park in the world. And this design competition is really coming, I think, at a crossroads and a milestone for our organization. Last November, Secretary Salazar signed the National Mall Plan. It is only one of 4 plans in the park's history, starting with Pierre L'Enfant's original design in the late 1700s. So this is an important moment for the Trust as we embark on implementing the National Mall Plan, which will be our blueprint for our fundraising and for our work for the next, 20 years or so. The design competition is seeking great designers, both established and emerging, and that is very important to us that we have a very broad base of people interested in this project. So it's great to see the number of people who are here today. We have had through this process a very robust steering committee comprised of the National Park Service, who is our partner, the U.S. Park Police, the Architect of the Capitol, the Smithsonian, the National Gallery of Art, the D.C. Office of Planning, the National Capital Planning Commission, and I thank them for this beautiful space today to use, and the Commission on Fine Arts and the Government Services Administration. It has been a very robust dialogue in getting to where we are and to what you have seen in the design competition manual. The competition, as you know, will focus on 3 major areas of redesign identified in the National Mall Plan: Union Square at the foot of the Capitol, the Sylvan Theater area over at Washington Monument Grounds, and Constitution Gardens. In October, in another week or so, we will be announcing an internationally respected jury who will oversee this competition with our design competition manual manager, Don Stastny. And the winning design will be announced at the Trust's annual benefit luncheon on the 3rd of May next year. So we are time-bound and looking forward to the winning designs for each of these areas. It's important to us that we are looking at all of these sites collectively, and The reason why we're doing this is because we want it looked at in a contextual basis of the entire 770-acre park, and each of those areas are distinct. Each of them have different requirements, which Don will go into, but they're all a part of this overall landscape, which is so important to our country, but also are iconic spaces. To me, I think the trajectory of design on the National Mall, from the classic obelisk to a once controversial Vietnam Veterans Memorial, this is the next evolution of the National Mall, and we look forward to stewarding this next phase. We look forward to your participation and your questions, and appreciate you all being here today.
What I want to go over at this point is a little bit about the competition itself and how we have it organized, and also point out some of the features that are incorporated throughout the whole competition, as well as give you some hints and directions at what we are expecting for the Stage 1 submissions. I'd also like to introduce Jennifer Manhard, who is my partner in putting together the overall competition, and she is a project manager and makes sure everything goes according to the way it should, and that old guys like me don't forget everything we're supposed to do. So the technology works. As Caroline said, this is really a unique opportunity, and I think all of us that are working on this, Daniel or someone, you lost it. Those of us that are have had the opportunity of working on the project for the last 6-7 months with the Trust for the National Mall, have begun to understand really the importance of this competition and what the outcome will be. In many ways, what we are attempting to do through this competition is not only look at designs for these 3 particular sites, but we are basically trying to set the standard for what the mall will become for the next 100 years. So this is a major I wouldn't say turning point, but a major landmark along the way of what we can do with this most important space that we as Americans enjoy, and is symbolic of our democracy. Why the 3 sites? The overall master plan that has been developed created or identified a number of different improvements throughout the mall that should be made. And some of those are actually underway as we speak. But these 3 sites appear to be those areas where we can make key interventions that, when they are designed and built, will have a major impact on the overall mall, but they will also create a dialogue between each of them, which will begin to give added meaning, functionality, serviceability to the mall itself. We started out on this thinking about which one should come first, which should be put in priority. And what we decided to do was to get a concept design for all 3, and then at that point go through costing, see which might be more favorable as far as getting funding and to proceed with them, and then make a decision as to which one would go first, second, and third in implementation. The plan is to implement, and the plan is to proceed in an orderly fashion towards realizing these 3 designs. So this isn't an idea competition. This is a competition for real things. As we have this set up, there are 3 stages to the competition itself. And the basis for this competition, or the basic structure of the competition, is very similar to the GSA Design Excellence Program. But there are other subtleties that have been put into the process that we have evolved as competition managers over time, that we feel both give a better product to the sponsor at the end, but also for those participating gives greater opportunity to both learn, explore, and discover different kinds of ideas within the competition process. Stage 1 is the portfolio, and we are looking for this to be a very thin document. I'll say it together, very thin document. We aren't looking for something out of marketing. We're looking for a very thin document. And we say very specifically within the rules and regulations what we would like to see. The cover letter. The 2 next things that are listed up there are very, very important. The statement of design intent, we have found from our experience, tells us a lot of things. It tells us the passion that you bring to the project. It tells us the direction and your methodology about how you go about designing and how you think about design. And as we've, over the last 30 years of running these things, we've found that that statement of design intent is one of the strongest pieces that you can deliver. So spend a lot of time on that. And let it be written by the designer. Don't, if marketing gets a hold of it, take it away from them and write it right. It is much better that it shows the passion of the individual designers than what the corporate logo or branding is. The next thing we're asking for is this statement of project preference. And in that, you identifying which of the sites you would like to be considered for. And if you are asking to be considered for more than one site, we would expect that we would get a portfolio submission for that particular site. So that it has that difference in there as far as the statement of project preference. The project examples show us things that are innovative, show us things that are the type of thing that really represent what your philosophic base is. I've said this before, and it's probably not exactly true, but it would be more important to show a very innovative doghouse than 5 spec office buildings. But think about that analogy, about things that you really care about and that are representative of your philosophy, as opposed to larger projects or projects that may not have the kind of meaning to it. We are, after all, in this case, looking for places of meaning, places that are symbolically strong, places that will reach out and touch the hearts of Americans as they use them. And the lead designers' bios, again, short and to the point, important areas that you feel should be a part of it. Look at your portfolio as telling a story of you and why you want to be a part of this competition. Tell the story. Get away from the marketing. Tell the story. Stage 2 then, and also one of the questions that will come out of Stage 1 and maybe in your minds is, should you put any team around you at this point? No. Think about the jury and the jury getting all these portfolios. They're going to be looking for conciseness. They're going to be able to open something up and understand what's in it right away. They don't want to go through pages and pages and pages of team or the backup of what is there. We're looking for the lead architect, lead designer from architect, and the lead design landscape architect. Stage 2 then, those that are selected, and we at this time assume that there will be somewhere between 8 to 10 lead design groups which will be assigned each site, or will be assigned to each site. Some of the teams might be assigned to more than one site, depending on how that works out within the jury itself. But after those teams are assigned, the teams being the lead architect and lead landscape architect, then we will ask them to surround themselves with a technical team. So this would be where the technical folks come in, and might be all the way from basic engineering, civil, electrical, acoustical, those kinds of things, lighting that you may want to put in your proposal. The point being that out of stage 2, we want each of you to have a complete team, that if you were selected to go into stage 3, you could continue on after stage 3 into implementation. So that's the general concept of what we're trying to accomplish in stage 2. If you submit on stage 2, these elements that are here, we would also ask you to stand for a interview with the jury. The interviews will, given the number we're going to be dealing with, will probably be about an hour, and will be probably limited to 15 to 20 minutes of presentation, and the rest allowed for conversation with the jury, question and answers that might occur. So everyone that submits will be given the opportunity to be present for an interview with the jury itself. Out of that, we will determine somewhere between 4 to 5 teams which will be assigned for each site. Now, stage 3, we have found over the years as we have done this, the stage 3 is the actual design competition part of it, or when the designers are actually designing. Also, as a practicing architect myself, I know that you make decisions probably in the first 3 weeks, which can be fatal if you've made the wrong decision. So what we have put into this is a mid-course review. What this will be is each of the teams will be able to sit down with our technical advisory committee and talk about, or use that time with them to identify any kind of questions they might have, and see if there are any kind of fatal flaws within your overall thinking that might be derogatory to you down the line. So it's a chance for kind of an attitude check, or a design check in the middle. The technical advisory committee will also, at the beginning of stage 3, be developing for us a set of kind of technical criteria and those kinds of things that will be given you as well. So it will be a continuation of their input going into it. We found that this mid-course review, the agenda for your mid-course review, will be completely up to you. You'll be given a block of time, and how you spend that with the technical advisory committee is totally up to the design teams to orchestrate and use that time as effectively as possible. The submittal, we have a assumed submittal that is in the competition manual now. We reserve the right at the beginning of stage 3 to be more specific about exactly what that submittal is, based on what we know, what our presentation venues and protocols might be. But basically, there will be presentation boards and a companion document. The companion document will be, again, a very thin document that will talk about the design, the technology, and have 8.5 by 11 representations of any kind of the graphics that are developed. So that companion document will stand alone as we go through certain kinds of evaluations. We won't have to lug the overall boards around. We will also, at the end of that, give everyone an opportunity to make a face-to-face presentation with the jury itself. And again, because of the numbers of those, they will probably be limited to about an hour. And it is our intent that the presentations, while they are to the jury specifically, would be available to the public and could be viewed as well. So the stage 3, as we go through it, will be complete sometime around the 1st of April. And we will then, as Caroline said, be making the announcement at the May 3rd luncheon of the Trust. Communications in this are very, very important to us. Should be very, very important to you. We have ongoing question and answers that will be taken on the through the website and will be answered on the website, so that all questions that come in will be answered, and all answers will go out to the website. So without the author of the original question mentioned or whatever. So it's anonymous as to where the question came from, but all questions will be there for your access to look at. And that mechanism is in place right now. We are going through some getting with the computer and the website, getting everything to work well. So things are a little bit delayed at different times, but we do have that mechanism in place right now to answer any questions you might have. The schedule, is it in the? Did I go over it already? Do you know? So the schedule for stage 1 is we had the kickoff on September 8th, and the portfolios are due on October 13th. So 2 to 3 weeks out is when we're looking for the portfolios themselves. We'll go through the evaluation, and we will announce the those selected to continue to be invited into stage 2 on October 27th. And then we will immediately go into stage 2, with the idea being that we would have the stage 3 competitors selected by December 15. So before the holidays, and then we will start into stage 3 right in after the new year to give you the full time necessary for design. You have on the website the competition manual. For those of you that have not been around a competition that we've run before, the competition manual becomes kind of the Bible as far as going through the competition itself. Any questions, we always relate back to this, and any adjudication is that we need as far as we go through is a part of this. Adjudication is an important part of the competition as far as where we go for final answers and final guidance should there be any kind of difficulties arise during the competition. We have a governance group that is represented by or has representatives on it from the National Park Service, the Trust for the National Mall, and GSA. And so there are groups there that will advise Caroline as to any kind of actions that need to be taken during the competition, or any kind of adjudication that is necessary on any kind of elements or questions that come up that aren't answered within the competition manual itself. Okay, what I'd like to do now is pass the podium to Susan Spain. Susan has been working all her adult life on the mall. Not quite, but almost. She headed up the preparation of the National Mall Plan, and has been working with our steering committee to help us understand both the programs that are required on the mall, as well as how they fit into the overall master plan itself. And Susan is going to talk more specifically about the programs for each of the 3 areas to give you an idea and maybe some information as to which ones you may be most interested in applying for. Susan?
Thanks, Don. And thanks to Caroline, too. I represent the National Park Service here today. The National Park Service is the federal manager of the area that's known as the National Mall. The National Mall is the big umbrella term for all of the individual areas such as the Washington Monument, the Mall, Union Square, the Tidal Basin, and so on that are within the central core of Washington, D.C. You may not know that this is a national park area. I'm just going to go through a few things because looking back at the questions, I don't know which is forward and which is back. There we are. We started national mall planning more than 4 years ago. The result was this. You don't want to look at this. There were CDs here today. You can search in that. Something that may be very helpful for you at the back end of this, which is not in this, is a series of photographs of each site on the National Mall. It also includes photographs of demonstrations and activities and events, as well as the 2009 presidential inaugural, just to give you some sense of the kinds of things that go on. Every unit of the Park Service has to have a plan. Congress directed us to do this planning. Here's a little bit about the planning parameters. We wanted to be within the context of extending the legacy plan that NCPC had prepared in 1997. Subsequent to that, they did a Memorials and Museums Master Plan. There has been concern about overbuilding memorials and turning the National Mall into something that everyone would not like to see. So that is a parameter we're working within, the Extending the Legacy, Memorials and Museums Master Plan, and then in 2010, the Monumental Core Framework Plan, which is the areas abutting the National Mall. Those are kind of frameworks or sideboards for us, in addition to the Commemorative Works Act. In the Commemorative Works Act update, there was the recognition that the National Mall was a completed work of civic art. And they also said no new memorials or visitor centers. It would not serve you well if you talked about any of these sites as memorials that are the design sites. Be careful about that kind of language. Whoops, went too quickly. A little bit about planning. All of the things as they move from the design concepts into design development will have to be doing National Environmental Policy Act and Section 106 or Historic Preservation Planning. The National Mall Plan was a collaborative plan. Caroline listed the people on the steering committee. We had the steering committee from this group, plus I think we had 21 federal and local agencies that were working with us on the National Mall Plan. We got over 30,000 comments on the plan. We did a lot of advanced planning, and a lot of this is available to you on websites, best practices and so on. Some of them are available on the competition website. On the competition website, in particular, you might be interested in the best practices. You might be interested in the cultural landscape inventories for each site. This really takes a look at the history of development. Of course, that's the past, and we need to look forward. Clearly, there were issues with these areas, or we wouldn't be wanting to do something new at this point in time. So we did all of these things as part of planning. And as Caroline said, we finished up the plan. This thing was signed in November last year. Then we did the summary. And I think all of you got a summary plan today. And we've been looking at a variety of implementation. There are probably 20 to 30 projects that have been underway in some way, shape, or form as a result of the National Mall Plan. And just, I think I talk a little bit about that. Current status, these are the reasons why we're trying to do something. It wasn't designed for the levels of use we have today, the 25 million people. It wasn't designed for the types of use we have today. The great variety of events and activities, First Amendment demonstrations, national celebrations that occur so frequently. We may have 50 a day. We've got 3,000 a year. That's an awful lot of things happening there. Our events have been concentrated on turf. This is clearly a historic landscape. We have unacceptable appearance to the general public. part of the design competition is to really make sure we have more venues that can absorb all kinds of different types of uses sustainably and can perpetuate high levels of use. We have damaged natural systems, we have watershed flooding, we have soils that are so compacted that they're as hard as concrete block. Water doesn't go into the soil, it contributes to flooding, blah, 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 on and on and on. When we started planning, we had $450 million worth of deferred maintenance. With the Recovery Act project, we cut a good chunk off of that. So we're going to say $400 million in terms of deferred maintenance out there. Much of it relates to activities around the tidal basin, with the seawalls around the tidal basin that are no longer, well, they're really, really old. All the stuff we have is really, really old, and there are challenges going on. This did not consider that we had an earthquake and what's going to be needed at the Washington Monument. While you're out looking at things, make sure you look around and see if you see any of the repellers on the Washington Monument. Probably later in the week you're more likely to see that. So, 25 million today, could be up to 40 million in the future. The real goal is to disperse events and activities throughout the National Mall rather than concentrating them in a few areas, or if we're concentrating them, making sure that those areas can absorb the types of use. We want to make sure that we're restoring and improving the landscape conditions and improving our visitor facilities. We have very small visitor facilities. We do not have a single restroom near food service. Who's falling over in their chair? We don't have nearly enough restrooms. We need to improve our circulation and all kinds of things like that. So those are some of the things we're trying to address. Flexible, multi-purpose is going to be essential as we move forward with each one of these areas. These are the critical areas in terms of National Mall Plan. 1, 3, and 4 are the design competition sites. The mall, we're working on improvements. That's the, do I have a, is this a, I guess it's not. It can be Vanna? Okay. The mall, oh, it does work, huh? Okay. The mall is this particular area. Physically, it was linked to Union Square right down here, which is the Capitol Reflecting Pool area. But there was, when we did cultural landscape studies, it came out as a separate history. So you'll see that if you look at those things. The Sylvan Theater area of the Washington Monument Grounds. We're working on this area right now. There's HOK has done the design work and a construction contract has been let for to redo turf on the mall. Sylvan Theater area is really the south side of the Washington Monument Grounds. Lori Olin did the redesign for the Washington Monument Grounds, and anything that happens in the Sylvan Theater area has to recognize and work along with the Olin plan. The Constitution Gardens area is a little known area. It was designed in the 70s by SOM to be, as was Union Square designed in the 70s by SOM. But this was designed to be a really relaxing place for people. We were going to be building a restaurant right on the east end of the lake. It's about a 7-acre lake with an island in the middle, a memorial on the island. There is an asphalt pad down there. We ran out of money. We got the asphalt pad built and some tiers for outdoor seating. Other areas that are really important and essential in terms of implementing the National Mall Plan, I'm going to go back to it. Whoops, doesn't want to do that. The Lincoln Memorial area, and of course we're working on the reflecting pool right now. This whole area, the Potomac Park area, this is where the Solar Decathlon is occurring right now. When you're out here on the mall, this particular area, you'll see the remnants of the Library of Congress Book Festival. Just a hint of the kinds of things that happen on a regular basis here. And then, of course, the Jefferson Memorial and the Tidal Basin. So we're working on projects in a number of areas. The design competition areas, cohesive approach. We need to be thinking about this within the context of the National Mall Plan. We're looking at all of these areas as providing venues that can be flexible. We need visitor services in most areas, and we may need performance or program space or space that can transform from one use to another very quickly. So you'll see that Union Square by the Capitol reflecting pool, it's very close to the Capitol, and really it's a foreground of the Capitol. The primary uses occurring right down there now are photographs. We can't afford to have a single purpose site on the National Mall with the level of use we have. Right now we have over 200 permits for photographs that are multi-day photographs, so it's group photos if you're visiting the National Mall. The Washington Monument Grounds, the Sylvan Theater area, we did explain quite a bit in the competition manual exactly what we'd like to see, because of course the competition has to result in things that will really benefit the National Park Service, or the trust wouldn't want to be involved with doing it. And then Constitution areas, Constitution Gardens, it's really an opportunity to bring an underused site back into the glory that was originally planned for it. I think you got maps like this in your package of stuff today, just to show you exactly what we're looking at for the sites. Union Square, the blue area, basically within the curb down in the area. The architect of the Capitol, however, really wants us to make sure that we're sustainably looking at stormwater management. So sustainable water use throughout the area is going to be very important. The Sylvan Theater area, we're basically looking at from Monument Lodge over to Survey Lodge. Survey Lodge was the elevator building for the Washington Monument at one point in time. The Sylvan Theater is right in the corner there. Right along here, there's a lot of tour bus parking. So we'll talk, you'll see a lot of that kind of thing. By the way, each one of these sites has a ranger out there expecting people to be coming to visit. They will not answer competition questions. They will answer questions about the site, about its history. If you want to know more about the Grant Memorial and stuff like that, they will be happy to provide you that kind of information. They can direct you to other types of things, and they can get you brochures and stuff, but competition questions go to Don. Some pictures of the Union Square in the 70s. We have a roadway tunnel coming under here. So that's the big challenge to this site. So we've got a reflecting pool that's very large. Some of the problems are that it really obstructs circulation, pedestrian circulation between Capitol Hill and the National Mall. You can see we had a fairly big activity going on this kind of a day. We frequently have stages. We frequently have large trucks. 18-wheelers and so on show up. We frequently have the need to put portable toilets and other things all over spaces. We may have the need to do magnetometers for security checks. So places have got to be flexible. When you see things like infrastructure for events, that means to have access for water, power, communications, those kinds of things, and you need to be thinking about that. On the left is part of the Grant Memorial, which is right here. It was built in 1922. It's one of the 5 presidential memorials. This is the part, I think this is the cavalry unit. On the west side, it was a man's life work, and he did not live to see it dedicated. He died like 2 weeks ahead of time, and this is him. He put himself into his work physically. I mean, we often feel like that when we're designers. You can see some of the conditions that we have going on at Union Square, and you can see we also have water issues. We have water quality issues at many areas on the National Mall. Constitution Gardens Lake and the Capitol Reflecting Pool are 2 of those areas. We are rectifying the issues at the Lincoln Reflecting Pool at this point in time by putting in a recirculation system and using non-potable water sources. So these reflecting pools have no recirculation system in them anymore. Okay, so it's like a big bathtub. You fill it with potable water and it turns green real quickly, and then results in all kinds of problems. This is the Sylvan Theater site. You'll see many more pictures if you look on that CD in the back, and you know, specific areas, but there's like 5 or 6 sets of photographs, so just cycle on through and they're by areas. So the Laurie Olin circulation plan really set up a series of ellipses. And this almost goes back to some work done by Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. The Sylvan Theater is right in this area. The function is historic. The building is not. Then there's a little round bathroom, and then there's a couple of ancillary buildings. We can't afford to have a place that isn't a little more flexible than that. We have all kinds of visitor parking along there. You can see what the stage looks like. And the stage is, the sight lines are no longer appropriate for the re-landscaped area of the Washington Monument. So, you know, you're sitting kind of at a weird angle at this point in time to use that site. Our third site is Constitution Gardens. Water quality issues. Sometimes it looks like a bubbling thing from Yellowstone National Park, another national park. We have real issues with the quality of the paving at this point in time. The east end of the pool is the area that was planned for a restaurant, and this is the memorial to the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Really under-visited. These are the folks that laid their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the line for us today. And not many people visit. But at the east end of the pool, this is what we have, a series of plazas going up. It was intended to be a very naturalistic landscape. It's kind of a secondary pedestrian path at this point in time. Very little visited. There are a few little activities that take place down on the west end, primarily related to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, Veterans Day, that kind of thing. And that's it.
Thank you, Susan. The few clarifications that I should make before we open it up to question and answers, I think. One is realize that there we start out with the National Mall plan that Susan referenced. If you go to the competition manual, the programs, design programs you see within the competition manual are a refinement on that plan itself. And over the next few months, as we prepare for stage 3, we will probably do some more refinements of the program itself. So understand that that's kind of a rolling program that will continue to evolve as we go through, and will actually be informed, I think, finally, by programs. Will be informed by the competition, stage 3 competition itself, and that we will learn from that as well how that program really might finally evolve. So just understand that master plan has one program. The competition manual is a refinement of that program. Those that are going into stage 3 will see another refinement of the program going into it. And again, it is more, refinements, not change of program. It is refinements of the program going through as we understand more and more about it. I think one of the areas of confusion that, and usually the areas of confusion are caused by me, is the portfolios themselves and what they contain. If you read the description within the manual, it says it infers kind of one portfolio with a section in there that has the written responses or the preferences for which site. So a strict reading of that would say that there would be single portfolio with those descriptions with a descriptions of those sites that you might like. We understand from some of the questions that we're seeing that folks may want to structure their proposal for different sites in different manners. for instance, change of a team or something like that. That is fine if you want to give us a separate proposal for something like that. So it doesn't have to be all in one. If you would prefer to put out separate proposals for, say you want 2 sites, you could do 2 separate proposals, or you could put it into one. We will work it out. So it's how you feel you can make your strongest case for the work. We can also understand that there may be, because we have very few project examples that we're asking for or limiting to project examples, that based on the site you may want to change your project examples. So as long as the proposal you come in with has all those elements in it, it can be one or many proposals. But in any case, we need the 3 copies of each proposal you send in.